And for you, you've been involved in a lot of activism outside of writing the book. I think I read that you've been involved with Get Up, Change.org, the Australian Youth Climate Coalition. So obviously a lot of those experiences fed into the writing of the book. What steps can teenagers take if they want to become activists, or they want to start addressing issues that they feel concerned about, like Tara does in the book?
I think take a plunge and get involved. There are some really great organizations like there. Anyone can start a petition. On GetUp has a petition platform. Change.org obviously exists. And if something's really bugging you, go out there and start a petition and talk to other people about it. Write to your local newspaper, or even organize a few other people at your school or at your community to talk about it. And you'd be surprised how much of a difference that can make when you get started. And of course, join others. The Australian Youth Climate Coalition is a great example of an organization of young people who are currently making change. And I also think that this generation of young people are so inspiring, and so many of them are already deeply political and out there and using new tools and new platforms to really raise their voices. And just my advice is unleash your creativity, go for it, and learn and talk to as many people as you can.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that struck me in the book, because I know for me personally, I was reading it thinking about my own high school journey and thinking, yeah, I think when I look back, I can see a lot of what we now call privilege, white privilege, and thinking that it didn't occur to me at the time to sort of question, well, yeah, why do all the Asian students hang out together, and why don't we invite them to sit with us at lunch or things like that? And it wasn't intentional, it was just sort of the way it was. And yeah, I think that questioning of things, of the status quo, is certainly very present in there with the other side characters, where you have, you know, some really racist events that happen, and then you've really captured the sort of justification of that as well, and then the questioning of that justification. But I think the other thing that I really liked about it is just seeing the different roles that everyone can take, that, you know, we don't all have to be standing at the front on a stage giving speeches like Tara does at times, but then there's other characters that are behind the camera taking pictures for social media and things like that. So is that what you found with your own activism, that there can be different places for different people and based on their strengths?
Absolutely. And, you know, as someone who's like a writer and like a creative, like some of the most powerful activism can be in the form of art, can be in the form of poetry, can be in the form of writing. Some of it can be in the form of radical gardening. Like, I just think that you can bring your own self to it, and whatever your passion might be, it doesn't have to be a rally. It doesn't have to be a protest. It can be the way you express yourself and finding the issue that resonates with you and using that to create change. Absolutely. It can look very different for different people.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I was going to ask you was about the writing process, and also the fact that you were born in Iran, grew up in Sydney, and now you live in America, and you've been published through Wakefield Press, which is a South Australian publisher. So can you tell us a bit more about that process of getting published and what that was like, being sort of so international with it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the process of getting published, the biggest thing was writing the book and like making sure that I was writing it and making time to get the words on paper. And the other big thing for me, and I will be honest about this, was this book is like draft, I think 12. This book went through 12 rewrites. And I just want to be really honest about that, because I remember when before I was published, I would pick up a book and be like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm never going to. And that's like a 20th draft, not a first draft. So I think for me, the biggest key to being published was giving myself permission to rewrite the book over and over again and giving it the time and space that it needed to do it. And then finally having the courage to also be like, okay, it's good enough now to send to an agent. And then it's good enough now to send to a publisher. And then once it was there, to acknowledge that it was going to be rewritten all over again as well. So I think that was the biggest key for me.
And did you have people around you that was reading it reading the, you know, the first, second, third drafts to say, it's not quite there yet?
Absolutely. I had an amazing virtual writers group where we had one Zoom meeting together, and then every 2 weeks we would send each other chapters, and they were phenomenal in giving me feedback and pointers and just encouragement to keep going. I also did the 6-month So You Want to Write a Novel course from the Australian Writers Centre online. And that was incredible as well. Getting that feedback and that community workshop, and also just those community resources, were really useful in honing my voice, seeing what was working with the plot and what wasn't, and really just pulling it together.
Excellent. And do you have